Welcome to Libraryland Conversations. This is one of our favorite ways to stay in touch with what's happening out there in the land of libraries. I'm Adam Zan, president of Libraryland Project.
And I'm Greg PC, the executive director of Libraryland Project. And I'm super excited about today's episode, this one. We're joined by Lena Kilburn, the director of the Framingham Public Library, and Deb Hinkle, the assistant director. I've had the good fortune to meet both of you in person before the pandemic. Lena way back in 2020, early 2020, before things got crazy. And Deb in 2019, when you were the director at Oxbridge, and more recently, coincidentally, in Framingham. Thank you both for being here. We are big fans.
Thank you for having us. We're big fans of you.
Yeah, I second that for sure. We love how dedicated you are to libraries and to spreading the word that of all the great things the public libraries do around here, and it's awesome. So we're so happy to be here.
Well, thanks. And this is a little different way that we can engage and hear a little bit about how you got into Framingham and librarianship. I think it'd be a great place to start. Can you tell us a little bit about your career paths? Maybe Lena, you want to go first?
Sure. Absolutely. I feel like I should say this, and I'm sorry. My name is actually pronounced Lena. And I didn't ever tell you that, probably because I get like ear blind to it. I'm like, I don't even hear it the wrong way. So I'm just gonna put it out there. So yeah, it's Lena Kilburn. But so I started, it's one of these things that I feel like all my life I wanted to be a librarian, and it just took me a really long time to kind of realize it. And when I did, I went for it, as fast as I could. So I came to it a little late in my career, did some other things beforehand, went and got a master's in library science at Simmons. While I was doing that, I was fortunate enough to work at Boston University's music library, where I did, kind of the evening shift. I managed some students. I was fortunate enough to work with their very wonderful collection. I have a little bit background in music, so that made sense. And it taught me a lot about, academic librarianship and just kind of discovering what it means to work with certain types of collections. It was nice to get a foundation, Library of Congress, all that jazz. But my heart was always in public libraries, so I couldn't wait to find my way to a public library. And happily, once I got my degree, I applied to Framingham, where the community is incredible, and it's a very dedicated library community here. Also a very diverse community, and Portuguese speakers were among the diverse groups here. I myself spoke Portuguese, so it was a really good fit, and I was able to offer some of those language skills, and that was a good way for me to get my foot in the door in their children's department. So I started here as the assistant supervisor of children's services. And then I was pretty directed as far as what I wanted to do in this career, which is to get into administration and really be in a place where I could advocate and create strong libraries, or create a strong library wherever I ended up. And so I moved pretty quickly. It took me about 3 years to get to assistant director. And then I was assistant director for 5 years with Mark Consois, which was amazing. And then incredibly privileged to take the job as director. So that's my story in a nutshell.
Great. How about you, Deb?
So yeah, I actually jumped right into librarianship pretty quickly, school-wise. As soon as I graduated with my bachelor's degree, I popped right over to University of Pittsburgh, and I got my master's in library science. I worked a little bit at the Penn State Hershey Medical Center Health Services, the Harrell Health Services Library, for quite some time, which is so difficult to say. And I also worked at the public library in that town as well. At some point, I just really, really wanted to live in Massachusetts. I knew that the libraries were treated well there. I knew there were an abundance of them. So I took a leap of faith and I moved to Boston, Massachusetts in 2013. And I worked as a manager at a bakery for quite some time until I found myself back in libraries in, I think, 2015 at Oxbridge, where I worked as the youth services librarian. for about a year, and then my predecessor moved on to other things. And again, like Lena, I was so privileged to be able to take over as director at Oxbridge and learn so much there. And just in this past year or two, I started thinking, I love what I do. I love librarianship. I love managing. I would love to learn from someone. So I started seeking out jobs where maybe I could perhaps work a little bit in tandem with someone else. So I'm so lucky to be at Framingham, where I started in March.
Awesome.
So that's my story.
Cool. I lived in Natick for many years, right next door, for more than 20 years, and spent a lot of time in Framingham. And really, I love now the city. It was a town. Lena, you touched on sort of the diversity. Can you talk about how it was for the town to become a city, and how a little bit more about the community that you're serving?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for a long time, Framingham had the distinction of being, I think, the largest town in the state or something like that. And it had, I think there were the two camps, one who wanted to stay a town and one who wanted to become a city. Both had really excellent reasons for, and valid reasons for their, respective positions. The town perspective being, well, we can have that small town feel. Everybody has voice, hopefully, which, in town meeting. Unfortunately, with such a huge community, town meeting got really unwieldy. It was long. Sometimes it went on for weeks. It was just really challenging to get business done. So I think ultimately that's why the citizens of Framingham voted to become a city. And hopefully also what it meant was representation, because we now have districts that should be represented by city councilors that are represented by city councilors, and hopefully everyone in each district has good representation by their city councilors. So that's a good thing. So, but although it's been a few years now, we're still kind of in the infancy of it, still working some kinks out. I think we have excellent leadership here. Our city council is great in terms of, really being engaged and wanting the best for this community. And the community is, as you said, very diverse. We have, from the library's perspective, we're always kind of tapping in. And as everyone knows, diversity kind of shifts and changes really quickly. And, we have to remain flexible and nimble to kind of see what's happening out there in terms of influx of different immigrant groups, linguistic needs, whether we should be trying to translate our materials into other languages. We always know that Portuguese and Spanish are the two main languages besides English that we need to have our materials in, and we need to be out in the neighborhoods, out talking to people, sitting at people's tables, trying, with our ears open to hear what it is that they need, because even though we're always here. The library is always here. We're here at the heart of the community, physically welcoming people as best we can. But we know people can't always get out here, or they're too busy. There's lots of different reasons. So from our perspective, it's really important to push out, get out into communities, hear what folks need, and it helps if we've got staff who speak Portuguese and Spanish for sure, and that's something that we're always working toward. And just to make sure we represent that diversity here in Framingham, which is very rich. Yeah.
Okay. Lena, you mentioned you took over from Mark back in the summer of 2020, and obviously a tough time to navigate. And, sadly, we're still in the middle of this, a difficult period. What was it like becoming a director during the pandemic? I guess I'm thinking back to, you mentioned reaching out to the community, definitely different ways of doing that. So yeah, I'd love to hear about sort of some of the management things you went through, and also some of the programs you've put in place during this time to help the community.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing where if I stopped to think about it, I might freak out a little bit, but there was no time to think about it too much. the nice thing is that I was here already 5 years working with Mark in administration. I knew the community. I knew our culture. I knew the ways in which we could help. I had really strong connections with our city government and with my colleagues in other divisions, who were all working really closely together to try to, mitigate the challenges that the community were facing. So, in Framingham, we are a very collaborative, very team-oriented staff. So all of us got together, went to work right away. We had, on March 13th, when we closed our doors, we had a work from home plan all established, ready to go. We had processes in place, and by Monday, 16th, I guess, we kicked right in. So we had regular meetings planned for every department. Of course, it was all, actually, we used Google Meet because we had the Google Suite through Minuteman Library Network, which was great. And we never used our Google resources so much as when that happened. It was kind of amazing. And actually, one of the little silver linings on the cloud is that we now used it to a great, for a great effect in many ways. But so we knew that before we left, and this is thanks to, of course, to Mark, that we needed a plan. So we put together a staff plan. Our very first virtual story time was that Monday the 16th. So we were ready right away to continue to offer programming to our community. So virtual programming started right away. Our staff were engaged. We were working on our work from home plan that included lots of different things, including envisioning ways to reach the community. We didn't have chat before, so we got that going. It took maybe a matter of days. We had library chat going through our website. And then we were working with our city partners to do things like collect and distribute masks. We knew our community needed them. So we were getting I think we distributed something like 10,000 masks over the course of those first 6 months or something. We started working, we knew we were going to want to come back to the building and offer curbside pickup. We started to work with our network to adopt the software that we were going to need to execute that. Things like working with other partners to 3D print components for PPE, we did that. We worked with our city, with the mayor's office and with our Callahan Center, which is our senior center, to make wellness calls out to our senior residents. We had a very big database of senior residents here in the library, which of course we kept internal, but we went ahead and called them. I mean, we were in a health crisis and we wanted to make sure that those folks had what they needed. So we set up essentially a phone center, as it were, remote, and started calling our seniors to make sure they had what they needed. And then we partnered with the city also to create something that we're calling an info line, which we think eventually will become like a City 311, but it's staffed by library staff. And they are able to do this work remotely thanks to city technology. And we actually take calls from the community on lots of different questions that they might have about city resources and such. So that all grew up out of the pandemic too. So we were grateful and lucky to have really good leadership. We met with the mayor every single day at the beginning, every single morning. All division heads, library included, of course, met with the mayor. And we still do that to this day. It's come down to once a week, but we meet with her every week and talk everything over and see where we're at. Our health director was incredibly engaged with us every step of the way if we had questions about safety and what we could offer. We opened our doors in August of 2020 for computer appointments in the downtown library because we knew that was critical to our community. So, we were just really, we needed to know, to keep it at the front of our minds what the highest need was of the community and try to make that happen. So that's what we did.
Awesome. Thank you. Deb, I wanted to ask you, because you were obviously, I have a couple of questions for you. You were obviously in a very different community. Oxbridge is a much smaller community than Framingham. And I'm curious how you dealt with COVID there during your directorship. And then I also wanted to ask you what the move to Framingham has been like, and what do you love about Framingham? What do you miss about Oxbridge? And then finally, I want you to talk about the new business center, because you pointed that out to me the other day, and love it.
Yeah, it's wonderful. That's a lot of questions, Greg. All right.
So the first one was about COVID in Oxbridge.
COVID in Oxbridge. Yeah, it was, that was quite a challenge. I remember sitting in the library that Sunday, trying to figure out, with the town manager and my board of, the chairman of the board of trustees, what our next steps were. And we did similar to Framingham. We had a work at home plan. Our amazing youth services librarian who took over my position was immediately doing virtual story times, which was great. She did them 3 times a week, and immediately had a following, and that worked out really nicely. We also did virtual programming, including yoga and meditation. I'd say those were our top hits, if you will. We got back into the library pretty quickly and were able to work in the building, which was definitely a blessing, and segued into curbside, I believe, in May of 2020. And it was fun. The assistant director / youth services librarian and I spent a lot of time planning and executing how exactly we're going to make that curbside flow, and it was a fun challenge, I'm not going to lie. Yeah, another silver lining of these terrible times. What do I miss about Oxbridge? I miss my awesome, amazing staff and colleagues. I had such a wonderful team there. It was very small and tight knit. I felt like I really grew up a lot in the 5 years that I spent in Oxbridge. I miss my patrons, and it's such a small community. I think less than 15,000, very easy to get, very connected to my patrons. So I miss them a lot.
It was so funny. Both times I've been there, I've been there more than that. There were conversations between the staff and the patrons that were just so familiar and so friendly. People asking for video recommendations, then that would digress into a whole conversation about favorite movies, and it was really nice to see.
Yeah, it was a wicked laid back environment. So that it's a great library, and I know that they're doing wonderful things there under the leadership of Chris. So and what I love about Framingham, as soon as I came in here, it just blew me away. Every single person on the staff has they take ownership of something. Not only are they working behind the circulation desk, but they're supporting youth services programming, adult programming. They're helping with periodicals. Every single person here takes ownership of something, and I think that's so special. And it's one of the things that makes this library so amazing. I am also learning about the community. I've been able to get out on the bookmobile a couple of times, and that has been the highlight of everything. It's been so much fun. Lena and I went out a couple of times together. And it's just been so much fun to be able to reach communities that don't know really about the library and how the library works or what it means. So you can take books for free and I return them. So it's really, really fun to teach people about the library and get out there and start meeting new people. I'm an extroverted introvert, so it's fun. It's overwhelming and fun at the same time.
Totally understand. And now the business center, because you pointed it out, and we're looking at how libraries are helping communities deal with workforce development and deal with trying to get back on their feet, although not in the way we imagined when this whole crisis erupted. But what can you tell us about that specific service?
So this is something that Lena dreamed up a while ago, and then it kind of segued into something with the city. So I'll kind of give you the lowdown on that.
Great.
Well, let's see. So, right, exactly what you said, Greg. We are really eager to help our community with make pathways to a better future and a better life in all the ways that we can possibly do so. There's a couple of things that played into it. One is our downtown business community, which is just it's an amazingly rich, diverse business community that we want to support. So here in the main library, we're physically poised, ready to help facilitate their needs in terms of making their businesses stronger and better. And then, we also want to offer an opportunity so there's that. We want to be able to give small businesses the resources they need to navigate what is sometimes a complicated processes, city processes of getting what they need to operate their business, whether it's, licenses for different things or paperwork here or there. It can be real hard to get out of your business when you're, running a small business. It's super hard to do anything except for run your business. So to be able to create the ease of getting those pathways in place for people to access all that is part of what this is all about. It's the Business Resource Center at the Framingham Library. And so also in tandem with that was a project that I wrote an LSTA grant for called Downtown U. That was something that Mark and I worked on together, the kind of vision for. And Downtown U is a partnership with Framingham State to bring college level, life-changing learning opportunities to our adult population for free here in Framingham through at the downtown library, which is, accessible and wonderful, neutral, welcoming space for that kind of learning to happen. So happily, I wrote the grant this year and was applied for an LSTA grant to support this and received $15,000 to start our pilot project, which is as I said, partnership with FSU, specifically the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Center at FSU. And so our initial project will be supporting entrepreneurship, small businesses, and then we also have this Business Resource Center physically here at the library, and are training our staff to put all of this together to create something really, hopefully, very robust and impactful that can help our business community and then job seekers, of course, as well, and resume building and interview skills and all of that together. So it's going to grow. We're starting. It's right at its inception, and we're really excited about what it will grow to become.
Awesome.
That's amazing. I mean, you're doing so much. We're obviously interested in communication. How do you get the word out about some of the programs and opportunities that are available for people?
Yeah. Well, we have an amazing graphics team, I have to say, that does such incredible work with creating monthly newsletters. They work on our website. They send out a constant contact, which I'm still learning about. But any roadway to communication we're trying to work on.
Yeah, and it's true. We do have an amazing graphics team, plus marketing. We have a marketing committee. We have a social media team. Always working to see that the way that we're doing things is the best way to do it. How can we maximize our impact? How can we, and these things it's not easy to do, right? We wish we had the capacity to have like a full-time, marketing librarian or a full-time social media person. But these, as Deb kind of said when she was describing the staff, our wonderful, amazing staff who are brilliant in so many ways take on these little roles here and there. And we let them, we try to give them the resources they need to do that. And then we put together working groups to support that. So yeah, any way that we can get the word out, we try to get the word out. It's always a challenge. We know that, in order for folks to hear stuff, you kind of have to say it over and over and over again, especially for libraries. Mark actually used to say that the library is like the Statue of Liberty for New Yorkers. It's like this amazing thing that they just forget is there, right? Until they, for whatever reason, decide to remember it. Oftentimes it's because there's a crisis, which is fine, great. We're always here for that. But we want people to remember on a daily basis. They can come here and enrich their lives with an amazing classical performance on a Sunday afternoon, or come and learn you know, how to use Excel or you know, better their skills in some other way, or take out materials from our library of things, which is growing all the time. You can borrow a guitar and an amp, or, you know, a set of tools, you know. So libraries are just incredibly diverse and wonderful places that grow and change all the time, which is why it's so exciting to be in this profession.
They have to be. They have to keep changing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Just to emphasize what Lena was saying about people taking on these roles, that's one of the coolest things about this library. It's just so team oriented and collaborative. Everybody's working together. There is no I, you know. It's one of the things that during Lena and my discussions before I was hired that made me so attracted to this library.
You've described a lot of things that you're doing for the community. What's the community response? I mean, how is your relationship with the community?
Yeah, it's you know, we know we have the evidence that we have of our impact on the community comes from a few different things. One, when we go out and ask our community for support for an initiative or a project, we get a resounding and amazing response. So for example, our latest project that we're just about to sort of break ground on is a new teen room here at the main library for our young adults, this incredibly important population. And our foundation took on their annual appeal, which was to raise funds for the teen room, and it is wonderful. We raised about almost $100,000, lots of support for that. Plus, you know, when we go before our city council and we advocate for our budget, we always get a very strong, you know, nod of support and appreciation for the work that we do. So, you know, and just anecdotally, you know, people do come out and say, hey, the staff at the branch are incredible. Thank you. I just want to say thank you to them. Or they'll come and they'll drop off treats for the staff. And we know that the people that we do reach, we do reach well and we serve them well. So our charge is to do better always, right? Is to get, use our tools that we have, like the bookmobile, like our amazing staff, like our wonderful community and outreach, head of community and outreach experience who's new to our library and has already done fantastic work, to find ways to get out and reach our community better. And I do think that that means getting out and, you know, like I said before, like, you know, it's not enough to stay in the library and say, look at all we have, come and use our stuff. It's get out there, talk to people. So that's why the bookmobile is a really exciting tool for that. We'll keep working.
I have no doubt.
That's awesome. I want to take us a little bit farther afield from Framingham and I guess Oxbridge. Do you both have favorite libraries? Maybe something from travels near or far?
I do have a favorite library. So 2 summers ago, I was out in Colorado, and obviously everywhere I go, I stop at the library. So every little town and city I was in, I stopped, including Aspen. But I loved the Basalt Regional Library. It was so gorgeous. I think that's who originally started the Seed Lending Library. I could be wrong. But their children's room incorporated these really cool aspen trees. So if you ever get the chance, visit that library. It's gorgeous. They had a great staff, very friendly. It was Colorado. There's not much better. You can't get much better than that.
Lena, how about you?
Let's see. Well, there's like the fictional libraries, but I won't go there. The library of my dreams. But no, I was thinking of a couple. One, well, I had the good fortune of taking a library design class where we had the director is the Toronto Public Library. They do the most incredible stuff there, and they
hear a lot about Toronto.
Yeah, it's just amazing what they do, you know, from like, I think they've got a human library. They have, you know, the things that they provide in their spaces for people, you know, wellness rooms and you know, prayer rooms for their Muslim community, different, just incredibly comfortable, welcoming, inclusive space. And that's something that I hold as a inspiration for us. So, and then when I was a kid, and I went to the Boston Public Library, which I think they've called the People's Palace, right? It felt like that to me. It was just like this is for everybody. Oh my God. Wow. Like how wonderful that such a beautiful place where you can feel you're welcome to come in and use these materials. So it will always have a special place in my heart, BPL,
Absolutely. We huge fans. The cocktail lounge at the BPL is one of the best innovations in library land that we've seen. Agreed.
And radio studios. Yeah, I'm hoping everything's going to be open soon.
Is there kind of, hopefully we're in some transition of this pandemic, are there lessons that you learned that you'd like to share? That, are there things that change the way you think about your work and your communities and librarianship?
You want to go first?
Yeah, I think it's been an incredible test of our ability to be flexible and to learn how to pivot and think on your feet. I come from the service industry, and that's what I've grown up doing. And it's been so much fun to incorporate it into librarianship, where often things are, this is how it's been done, and this is how we'll do it. It's been a great reminder that we need to think outside the box, not just during this pandemic, but for all time. Yeah. And I also think just rethink, repurpose, which I've actually learned from Lena. It's just, you don't have to do things the way you've always done them, and you have an opportunity in a crisis. So that's what I've learned.
Good lessons.
Yeah, I would echo that 100%. I think, and I just wanted to shout out again to Mark, because I have to. Rethink, repurpose came from Mark. So, and what that means is you take your resources, you see what you have, and you see the way that you need to flex and respond. You're just always ready to do that. And that's something that I learned from him. And I would also say flexibility is the lesson of this pandemic, and not just from a service perspective, but spaces. So when we're going to start to design, when we have the opportunity to redesign or rethink our spaces, everything should be flexible, even outdoor spaces, right? I mean, we learned from this pandemic how important outdoor spaces were. We repurposed, an area at our main library, slapped a sign on it and called it the Learning Yard. Right. And so it's now a place for people to come and gather when they can't come inside. We've got Wi-Fi and we've got tables we can put out there. We can social distance when we're in the open air. So I just think that designing libraries for flexibility is something I hope that we've all learned from this. And then certainly maintaining that, intellectual nimbleness that we're great at as librarians is really going to be key, just in any success going forward.
Awesome. We're about to wrap up. So are there other things anything else you want to add before we bid you farewell?
Just thank you for taking the time to chat with us. You guys, it's really fun to follow you on your library journeys. And we really appreciate it.
Yeah, we definitely do. And, go libraries. Thanks for getting the word out as so wonderfully, and with your dedication. It's just fabulous.
You guys are wonderful advocates for libraries. We appreciate it.
Too kind. Well, this has been a real pleasure, and we'll appreciate your energy, the excitement, and obviously flexibility. That's good watchwords for everybody here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lena and Deb. We do have more conversations or library land conversations in store, and we'll be back soon. If you have comments or questions or suggestions, you can drop us a line at info@librarylandproject.org. You can also now find Library Land Conversations on your favorite podcasting platforms. Just search for Library Land Conversations. Until next time, we'll see you all out in Library Land. Thank you. Library Land.
my way.